If you look at these teams since 22, each team's been a little bit different. And I think that you could make the argument, and I'll table the Wheeler injury for a second, and kind of work under the presumption that Trey Turner will be back in the playoffs. I think at this point in the middle of September, this is about as good as you could feel about any of these teams over the last 4 years. Because in 22, I know that we all feel so fondly about that team, but people were done with that team in September. It was the same old Phillies. They were about to collapse, and they finally break through when they're down in Houston and get in. But there was not a lot of optimism about a lengthy Phillies run in 22. 23, maybe a little bit more expectation, but the conventional wisdom was that the Braves were going to come get them this time. They weren't going to let that happen again. Last year, obviously, they run away with the division. They win 90 whatever games. But we all felt it a little bit, right? Like, hey, this team's been largely mediocre for 3 months now. Are they going to be able to flip the switch? There was a lot of concern about the way that team felt. I mean, so much so that you missed a show last September, and your son and I were on here talking, and I ended up pivoting back the other way. So ended up being wrong. I ended up being wrong, so I can't pat myself on the back. But I said to your son, I was like, dude, I wouldn't want to play the Mets in a playoff series. I think the Mets are going to beat the Phillies in a playoff series. And he agreed. Like, we all kind of felt it, like in our gut somewhere, that might not end well. That team didn't really give you a lot of reason to believe. Right now, in this moment, things could change. It feels different. It does feel different. I don't mean just because they're winning games, but it feels fun right now. It feels like there's a certain energy with this team that they did not play with for a large part of last year, and certainly for a large part of this year. It just feels different. And they've gone through win streaks. They've gone through good stretches where they've played quality baseball. This just has a different, we'll bring back the V word. This has a different vibe. It does have a different vibe. And I think a lot of it has to do with the center fielder.
No question. It's been the most impactful addition for any team at the deadline.
I said kiddingly, but not. I was like, hey, hot take. I think that Harrison Bader's been more important than Johan Duran. And Duran's been awesome. But yeah, I mean, look, Bader, the production is unsustainable. He's not this good, but He's been awesome. Just the flair, the way that he plays. It's just a different juice that this team so desperately needed.
No, and there's no doubt about it. And it's not just the way he's playing on the field. It's an energy that he's kind of brought to the clubhouse. And it was that same kind of energy. And I talked to Garrett Stubbs about this. Because Stubbs knows Bader. They're obviously, Bader was supposed to be on Team Israel 2023, but he had an injury, had to pull out of playing for them. He's going to play for them in the World Baseball Classic in 26. But they know each other pretty well. And so I asked Stubbs about it. I'm like, listen, I said, you're a guy who kind of has a sense for what players mean to a clubhouse, in the clubhouse, right? Not necessarily out on the field. And he said, it's the biggest thing. He says, you don't think about it. He says, people laugh about it when you talk about it. But when you're playing 162 games and you're playing this every day and you come in, it can kind of get monotonous. And he said, you need personalities in a clubhouse to kind of break up that monotony, to kind of change the vibe. And he says, you want to make fun of it, but it's legit. And he says, when you look at what they've brought in here, he says, David Robertson's a guy that's like that. Very, very fun-loving, outgoing, outspoken. There's a lot of people who believe that he might have been the guy who cut the cheese behind Aaron Nola.
I have that smile.
Yeah. So that happens. And then you bring in Bader, who's very much the same kind of energy guy, and he keeps the clubhouse light. You bring Stubbs back after September 1st, and there's a lot of fun going on in that clubhouse afterwards now with the smoke machines and everything else. It's all happening again. It feels like 2022 all over again because of the addition.
Phillies fans are, myself included, are sort of miserable by nature these days. And I just can't believe, I can't believe the reaction of Garrett Stubbs coming back. There is something to be said for, hey, you didn't have a more meaningful player to bring up here to help bolster this team. And I know that people are tired of the way that the clubhouse needs to feel, or the certain emotional or aspect, or the energetic aspect of it, because they haven't won the World Series. And that was such a big talking point about this team. And it hasn't cashed in. So people don't want to hear it anymore. Doesn't make it less true, though. I mean, everything that you're saying, I very much believe in. I believe that guys that enjoy each other, that have fun with one another, that are bolstered by it. It doesn't mean you have to have 26 clowns in the clubhouse, but you need some of that, because the weight and the grind and the cadence of a season can crush you, especially when you're playing with the burden of great expectations and in the ghosts or in the shadows of playoff disappointments over the last number of years. You know that weighs on these guys. And I think for a lot of points, it has not looked fun. It hasn't looked fun. You can win games. Like, the Phillies have had good stretches this season, and it didn't look fun. It didn't look like they were necessarily enjoying it. And, now it does. And I think part of that is because you're getting contributions from multiple places. Like, it's not just, oh, Harrison Bader showed up in center field, now everything feels different. But I think that's the starting point, the catalyst of it.